Hello, Internet. This is Mike Cottrill, host of the CMYO podcast, where we will, in 15 minutes or less, give you B2B marketing insights, or my nameless producer will give you double your money back. Today, I have a start of a 3-podcast series with my good friend, Rob Yoho from Sandler Sales. We're talking about the marriage between sales and marketing. It's hard. It's a dogfight. Rob's one of my good friends. I think we're going to learn a lot about how to bring the two together, and let's go ahead and get into it, because I know you're busy. Mr. Yoho.
Yes.
Thank you for being here. Now, you are a Sandler Sales guy, which means you're in sales. I'm in marketing. We're going to learn how to be friends today. But what the heck is Sandler Sales?
It's a great question. And Sandler, at its core, is a systematic way to approach business development. And probably an easier way to describe it is probably more of maybe some of the symptoms that an organization might have, where they're lacking sales structure. There's no repeatable process to grow and develop their people. And typically what we see through organizations is they've got really long sales cycles. Could be they're really having a difficult time finding kind of that decision maker inside an organization, or they're just not growing at the rate that they would like. And Sandler really comes in and provides a systematic approach to business development that's repeatable, transferable, and we can really grow and develop our people.
Okay. So, repeatable systems, something I want to focus on today. So we're talking about a pipeline full of junk. So as a marketing guy, I think it's your fault. As a sales guy, you think it's my fault. Let's set the scene. This is a room that I've been in 100 times in my marketing career. We're in a conference room at a $10 million small company. I put up my dashboard. All my numbers go up and to the right, Rob. My leads are up. My ROAS is up. My ad spend is right where I need it to be. I'm driving leads like crazy. I show you all these slides. As a sales guy, you go, I see that the leads are up, but the leads suck, right? The leads are weak. Why, to a salesperson, when we as marketers feel like we're doing so well, do the leads suck?
Yeah, it's a great question. And the amount of organizations that we've had this specific conversation around is actually quite shocking. And it's typically because the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing. Marketing doesn't necessarily understand what happens when they toss that lead over the fence right to the business development team. And respectfully, right, the business development team has no idea what it takes for the marketing team to kind of get those leads to actually come into the organization. The other layer of that, Mike, when we think about what makes a marketing qualified lead.
An MQL, jargon alert, MQL time.
Yeah.
Yes. What does make an MQL to you? Because you're in sales. And marketing will sometimes say, this person filled out a form. This person downloaded an ebook. Marketing qualified has to turn into sales qualified. What's an MQL in your world that's worth turning over to sales?
And that's the age-old question, right? And to your point, a lot of times those marketing folks feel like that form was marketing qualified. We got them to fill out the form. Now it's the responsibility of the salesperson. The issue a lot of times does lie within the market or the sales team when they don't have a good qualifying process up front to really understand who they're talking to. So they end up having kind of a lackluster conversation with the prospective client or the prospective opportunity.
So you and I worked together for a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, even though we're both very young, we've worked together pretty much the last 10 years. I think this time you and I have talked about the MQL to SQL handoff and how often it's a fumble in that handoff. One thing I talk to folks a lot about on the marketing side is something we call BANT. Budget, authority, needs, timeline.
Yeah.
If we can't qualify BANT on the marketing side, then it probably isn't SQL. Are those the strikes that you're looking for with the sales teams you're working with?
Yeah, so it's a great point, and BANT's a great process. Sandler's got a little bit different of a take. When we think about the BANT process, we're going to probably mix up the order a little bit. But what from an emotional buying reason, right? If somebody's willing to pick up a phone or fill out a form, there's a reason. And it's really up to the business development professional to really unpack why they're interested in talking to them in the first place, right? We would call that pain.
Yes.
One of the things that I think business development reps really lack is also if they can figure out the emotional buying reason from a budgetary perspective, right? Everybody wants to know, Mike, what's your budget? We have kind of a different take. we need to, one, understand from a quantitative perspective how much the problems are costing an organization or a person, right, that's coming to see us. And then we can start to build the budget from there, right? We can start to really kind of quantify what the issue is. And then our kind of last step would be, understanding decision-making process. And the operative word there isn't decision, right? It's really process. Because I don't care if you're selling living room sales to, a husband and wife, or you're selling to a Fortune 500 company, but there's a process in which people make decisions, and it's really up to us to really educate ourselves on what that process is.
So I love this. Again, I grew up with BANT, and we think about it on the marketing side, which is the budget, authority, needs, and timeline. But none of that, although it has authority in it, isn't really the process. The authority a lot of times on the marketing side is sort of going, what is your budget? Are you the buyer for this? And the answer, especially in B2B, which is where we live in, is, well, there often isn't a buyer. Right? It's for buyers. So I'm talking to Rob, but Rob's got to talk to Rick and Dave and Jan, right? So from your end, how do we fix this where we go, okay, today the leads suck. How do we go, instead of MQL to SQL, that SQL back to MQL? Like, how do you start off maybe qualifying a person a little bit, and then we rewarm them, put them back in the microwave in marketing? What do you have to give back to us, do you think?
Well, I think that's fair. And there's a ton of reasons prospects will eject out of the sales pipeline. Could be competing initiatives, right? Could be something outside of like our control. What do we do with those, right? Does it sit in our tickler file within our CRM, right? That we're consistently, following up from a business development? Are we dripping on them from a marketing perspective? And this is where I feel like the relationship between sales and marketing is disjointed, right?
Agreed.
It's a marriage, it's just dysfunctional, right? Because the sales team feels like it's a marketing activity, and marketing, feels like the sales have to be involved in it. If we could just unify the two, where we are dripping on them from a marketing perspective, but we are staying relevant from a sales perspective.
So I will tell you a challenge that I have. I'll be the CMO.
Okay.
You be the head of sales.
Love it.
A lot of times there's that tickle file of they're in the CRM. I get that. Rob's going to reach out every 60 days, 90 days. We can agree on a cadence from the sales side, from the biz dev side. I would love to drip that person. I would love to continue to educate that person. I have sales folks that I work with who don't care for a marketing touch point once the relationship started. How do you feel about that when we're marrying sales and marketing? Of, yes, Rob's going to reach out to Dave on a quarterly basis, but along the way, we should let him know updates about our business. Along the way, we should let him know if we've made big changes or new products are coming out. How do you handle that sort of like circling of the prospect?
I think it's a really good question, because I think part of the concern just from a sales perspective is I don't want too many hands in the cookie jar.
Yes.
Right? I want to make sure that the messaging is the right messaging that's being sent out. And that probably strengthens the argument that sales needs to understand what marketing's doing, and marketing needs to understand what sales is doing. So when we start to break down maybe the persona of what the person that we're dripping on really looks like, so we're messaging the right thing, there's probably got to be some active campaigns depending on the role of the person that we're really marketing to, if that makes sense.
That does make sense. And I think one of the things I am advocating for in bringing someone like you on the pod is saying, how do we have that conversation between sales and marketing of what this person's missing? Right? I think there's a sense in marketing, and us marketers, of course, we're very good at what we do, but there is some sense of like, I'll throw the fish over my shoulder like the Seattle fish market, and you got to catch it.
Yeah.
And I think on the sales side, there's when you go, well, the leads suck. Try to throw the fish back. I think we need to better qualify, like, why did we throw the fish back on both sides? What do you think people could do today on the sales side to improve their SQL process, how they go through their process of saying this is a good lead or this one needs more help?
So I think it's a really good question. I think when it comes from a biz dev side of it, we're all living probably in some sort of platform, some sort of CRM. And I think from a business development perspective, when we're in the trench and the bullets are flying and we're trying to manage deals in the pipeline and follow-up calls and all the things. One of the things that I think we lack, and I'm going to throw my sales development professionals under the bus, is we're not very organized in our CRM, right? We're not dispositioning the right way. We're not the personas or the types of prospects when we throw it back to marketing. We're not doing our end, right, when it comes to providing data and information back to marketing, so marketing can push the right content in front of that prospective client.
So, first off, I want to tell you, anytime you want to come on the podcast and throw salespeople under the bus, because our audience is marketers, so we love that. So we could do another segment just on throwing salespeople.
Sure, we could figure that out.
And maybe your audience wouldn't love that. So I think what I would give back to you to finish this first segment of like this $1 million gap, right, between sales and marketing is, I hear from good business development people like you a lot of times, we need to do a better job in our CRM as marketers. I think particularly on the CRM or marketing automation, whatever it would be, we have to do a better job customizing the qualifiers, right? So again, I'm not saying that we shouldn't use BANT, which I've used for years, but it isn't just budget. It's what kind of decision maker is this, or who else needs to be in the decision. So I do think I'll take you throwing yourself under the bus. I'll throw B2B marketers under the bus and say, when we're going through the qualification process, I think we need to go understand what salespeople need and what makes someone disqualified. There's probably commonality in that. And that's where we can do our marketing automations. That's where we can do our drips. And then I think that becomes less scary for the salesperson, because it's like, this is a common objection that we get in our discovery call. Let's push this person back in and we can nurture them on this point.
Yeah.
Is that do you think that's a fair way to start sort of bridging the $1 million gap?
Well, and I think that's fair. And I think the other issue, and I'll now go on the other side and pick my sales development folks back up. Some organizations with a simple form, and it could be just downloading a white paper where you have to kind of put your first name, last name, email address, and the marketing team's like, okay, it's qualified, and they throw it over. These prospective people that were interested in that white paper, they weren't asked to be called by me. Right. So now all of a sudden they're getting a call from a business development person. They're kind of confused on why. And that's where, to me, lies a little bit of the problem.
Yes. Yeah, I think it's fair. I hate that call. I think we all have that experience of, I'm about to hit submit on this form, and the form asks for my phone number.
Yep.
And I can kind of look at my phone and know it's about to ring.
That's right.
But I didn't fill the form out for a call. Right. But I know it's about to ring anyway. I filled out the form for the download, for the information, for the account, whatever it would be. So I do think as marketers, we can do a better job too of telling people what to expect. Right. I think that would help everybody on the discovery call side as well. Saying, hey man, if you fill this form out, we are going to call. You're going to get your thing, but we are going to call you.
Yeah.
Right. But I think a lot of times those early stage MQLs, when people download something, when they fill out a form, it's probably better to keep them on the MQL side for a while and understand more. Even if it's a quiz on the site, even if it's an email follow-up says, tell me more about this thing, before we hand it over to sales, like 100%. When we talk about lead scoring. So I think that's a good starting point on sort of fixing the $1 million gap. Sales comes over to our side of the fence a little bit. Marketing comes over to your side a little bit. We play a little nicer together and really figure out together what those qualifying steps are.
100%.
Is that a good action item for my marketers today?
Is.
Okay. I'm going to keep you for an SQL quality conversation, but I think that's a good start for today on how to fix the MQL to SQL handoff. Is that fair?
That's fair. I agree.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.